All right, Brandon, so this is the set we've got. As you can see, it's a little bit worn and battered.
It looks like they've traveled many miles.
To say the least, to say the least. I would dare say that with the wear and tear on these things, I think I'm ready for a new set.
Oh, 100%.
Why don't we just start off and kind of talk about what I've currently got relative to our last fit, and then we can move through the process. And from my perspective as well, I'd like to know, what is the difference between a tour player and a recreational player going and wanting to get fit? And when should they know when to get fit, and how often? And is there any indication throughout their game that they maybe should get fit?
I would say the difference between a tour player getting fit and a recreational player getting fit comes down to the tour players there to make a living. They're looking for every single competitive advantage that they could possibly get. Mm-hmm. So they have to make sure that everything is right all the time. Mm-hmm. There's not too many guys out there out on tour that will just play something the whole year. That's it. No changes, nothing. It's always going to be that constant tweaking and making so that they have every bit of advantage that they can. Versus a recreational player, most players are still afraid to get fit, thinking they're not good enough to get fit, but everybody should be fit for golf clubs, where you need to make sure that the clubs are your clubs, not just the clubs off the rack. Where the average consumer will see gains, they just have to be willing to take that risk to get fit and not be afraid to get fit, because in the end, they enjoy the game more, that they get better, and they start to see the results out on the golf course.
And just to echo that, is so many players will say, I don't think I'm good enough to get fit because I'm so inconsistent.
Yes.
But what would you say to that?
Well, and as you know from the teaching side, even the most inconsistent student is still consistent.
They have a pattern.
Yes, they have a pattern. Whether their path is 6 or 7 into out or out to in or both, they will deliver the club in a relatively similar manner. Player, even though they may not hit the center of the face, they might be able to hit the center face much more with a fitted set of golf clubs. Not only that, but it makes your job as an instructor much easier and much better, because you're teaching and training that student how to make those changes with a piece of equipment that is better suited for them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's never been more easy to go and get fit than it is now. So really, at the end of the day, everyone should be going out and getting fit, because it's only going to benefit you, make you a little bit more consistent, and especially your misses. Tighten that dispersion, help with off-center hits, and that's one of the big reasons that we're going to see a leap in performance.
Finding center face.
Finding center face. All right, so let's have a look at my set, run them through what we fit for myself last time.
In the past, we went with the RF MBs.
I'm very partial to them, so it's going to take me a lot to change.
Good news is the new model is even more forgiving and feels even better. In terms of shaft, we went with the 6.5 low spin Project X shafts. Lots of new shaft offerings now, so we'll toy around with those. We ended up going Ventus in the woods, LTD LS 9 degree with the Ventus 6X. Fujikura has updated their entire line to the new TR line, which is stiffer in the grip section. You can load it a little bit more, and it stays with you relatively well. The new Aerojet head, I do expect to see club head speed gains. Even with the exact same shaft, in testing we've seen generally players pick up 1 to 1.5 miles an hour just by changing the club head. And we did the same thing with the Fairwoods. We went with the LTD back weight, just for a club that's a little more versatile off the ground, and a slightly higher launch shaft in the Ventus Red.
This was quite an interesting club that we went through that fitting process, and
the driving iron.
We were sending that one.
This is a Tech X 4 iron that we actually ended up strengthening the loft for you to 18 degrees with a utility shaft, not a hybrid shaft, a utility iron shaft. 117 gram extra stiff, very low boring ball flight, very off the tee. In theory, sometimes it goes all. But no, look, I absolutely love all my equipment. Let's get into it. Since our last session, have you had any issues or any ball flight that seemed outside the norm with your current set?
Doesn't go in the hole every time.
So you don't have a hole-in-one with them?
No. How do I get fit for a club that just goes in the hole every single shot?
It's actually, we have had quite a large group of aces after fittings this year.
Okay, I'll hold you to that. So the question was,
any sort of ball flight that you've seen that's outside of the normal spectrum
Well, I've changed my swing probably a lot in the last year. I've been working a lot on speed. My max, probably the beginning of last year, was maybe just over 120.
Yeah.
In my last training session, probably 2 months ago, it was 129.1 or 2.
Okay.
So it's gone up. Ball speed was 191 I maxed out at.
Okay.
So that's translated into irons. I'm hitting these really good.
Yeah. Has it changed anything delivery-wise? Because typically when you go up in speed, especially the amount of gains you've seen, will typically change delivery or path slightly.
I'm a field player.
Yeah.
So if I hit a shot, instantly I know if that's going to spin too much or if the trajectory is wrong for the type of intent that I had. And I would say that at the moment with these clubs, I'm super confident with how they feel in my hand. Sometimes my divots look all over the shop, as in depth on heel and toe. Okay. I might not be as flat as I used to be. Yeah. But that would be interesting to note as well.
And have you had loft and lie checked?
No. It's probably changed a bit. How often would you see you're doing a fitting with a tour player, say Ricky, and they're mishitting the ball on the range? Now, the common perception, you watch these guys on TV and they're flushing every single shot. And once you get in the groove, but they hit fat shots and heels. And
every player has mishits.
Oh yeah.
Every player has mishits. Just like the normal golfer, it's from day to day to day. Like sometimes you are locked in from the morning you get up, and sometimes you go back and you restart your morning routine if the range session's poor.
Yeah.
So you spend maybe another 15, 20 minutes in the gym and restart the day trying to get your body back to where you would normally have it.
So that one there, I'm assuming that was a bit down and left.
Yep.
Yeah. That's my miss.
So I will tell you the clubs have moved.
Okay.
Since our last session. Right now, what I'm looking at is dynamic lie at impact. Now, a little bit of that is you're applying more force on the downswing because you're swinging harder, so you're bending the shafts more. But the golf clubs are coming in at 56, 57 degrees at impact. A typical 7-iron is 62 lie. So you're 5 degrees toe down at impact, which is also the reason why you're toe heavy on the divot.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume it's probably 1 or 2 degrees flatter than last time. Well, what I can tell you is club head speed is now 95, 96 with a 7-iron, and you were 92, 93 last time.
Okay. And for players who are coming and getting a fitting and managing swing changes, let's say they're working on something with your coach, and I have my preference for what I tell them, but from your perspective, what would you say to players who are working on something in the swing, which to be honest, everyone is always tinkering, and they want to get a true fit, like what their subconscious golf swing is? What's the best way to go about coming here and going, okay, I'm going to get fit for where I am, not what I think I should do?
So the best thing that player can do or that consumer can do is have that open line of communication with your fitter.
Yeah.
Be like, right now, this is where I'm at. I'm working with yourself.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing. And this is where we plan to be in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. That way it can give the fitter a chance at seeing the vision of the direction that the player is going, and then be able to not only fit for the moment, but be able to fit for that growth that the player and the instructor are working on together.
Yeah.
Because a instructor's best friend is a fitter, and a fitter's best friend is the instructor. Yeah. Because they're both working to make the player better, and they're also working to make each other's jobs a lot easier. Yeah. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you our current iron, which is our forged MB, which is the replacement for the RF iron. It is more forgiving, and you don't catch the really, really spinny shots if you catch it low.
Okay. Is that just due to the thickness?
It has to do with repositioning of mass.
Yeah.
In the RF iron, which was Ricky's inspired iron. He wants a specific CG location, which is a little bit higher, so it spins a little bit more. But also what that does is if you catch it low, it's going to spin it more.
Yeah.
So this is more of a neutral blade versus something that Ricky was looking to play himself. And then in terms of the golf shaft, it's still extra stiff. It's still like 122 grams. This is going to be a little bit stiffer in the tip section. Yeah, that's much more uniform on the divot.
And how much does ego play a role with players when it comes to getting fit? So, like, I love those Ricky Fowlers.
Yeah.
And I know looking down at it, it like gives me the confidence that I want to make a good swing and hit it well.
Well,
but if I miss hit it, I might.
Yeah. So part of it is the player has to like what they are looking at for them to be comfortable with it.
Okay.
So part of our biggest hurdles at times is creating golf clubs that make the golfer better, that are easier to hit, and that are also confidence inspiring when it comes to the appearance of the actual golf club.
Yeah.
And how does that feel in swing?
Feels stable. I definitely don't feel like I get as much feedback in my hands from the other one. The ball flight looks less spin, is it?
It's more consistent spin.
More consistent, yeah.
So your current RF, 77.
Yeah.
You have a spin differential of 667 RPMs.
Okay.
So that's a miss and a low shot and a high shot. Through 3 swings, you have a spin differential of 250 RPMs, and it's right at 7,500, which is making it so your carries are plus or minus 2 yards with the new versus plus or minus 5.4 yards with your current.
Feels different through the grass.
Yep.
Like the divot definitely looks more uniform.
Real subtle change. Same weight class, similar structure, similar lower spin as your Project X. It won't have that heavy head feeling like the previous one. So in swing, I would expect this one to feel slightly lighter in swing.
Yeah, it does already.
Yeah. Versus the previous one where it felt substantially heavier in swing.
Yeah, it feels very different. Almost just that first shot going from that heavier shaft, or what felt heavier at a different point to then, it almost felt like I lost the club head there for a second.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Very interesting. When it comes to players getting fit, how do you manage balls and repetitions and making sure that the player doesn't get tired and starts to look at certain clubs through a bias because they have heard about it that they might like? And how do you make it as unbiased as possible relative to managing their physical deterioration over the period of time?
Yes.
And also the mental side of it.
So when it comes to a fitting, I fit based off of frequency of use. So you're going to hit your irons more than anything else in the, with the exception of putter. So I always start irons first, then we move on to the driver, then we move on to fairways, hybrids, and then I end on wedges. So even though the player is going to hit the wedges the most, compared to a hybrid or a fairway wood, it's also the club that requires the least amount of energy. So I actually plan for the player to get tired by the time we reach the wedges.
Yeah.
Because a proper wedge swing, as you know, is
a little bit more finesse.
Yes.
We got a real problem if your wedge swings faster than your driver swing.
Correct. Or as aggressive as your driver swing.
Correct. I almost Jose Marie at that one.
Yeah, you are not a counterbalanced player.
It definitely doesn't feel good in my hands relative to. Gotta try them.
All right, so this next one is quite a bit different than everything else that I've had you hit.
I just hit one there. It felt great.
This is the Mitsubishi MMT 105 TX, which is 117 grams. it was only available in hybrid form, and this is the iron profile. So you get the feeling of graphite, you get metal mesh in the tip section. It is stable, it is smooth, it is easy, and it pairs extremely well with the MB.
It feels so much better than the last shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much better than the last club.
I will tell you from a consistency standpoint, this is the best spin that we've seen, and also the best or most consistent ball speed that we've seen. We're on shot 4 currently, and your ball speed is plus or minus 0.6. Spin is plus or minus 187 RPMs.